G'day viewers, my name's Oren Thomas. I'm a principal cloud advocate at Microsoft and I'm also the author of a bunch of books for Microsoft Press, including Windows Server 2019 Inside Out. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to be talking to a bloke whose identity is so tied up in Windows Server, he's actually got the product name in his Twitter ID. Principal Program Manager, Jeff Woolsey. G'day, Jeff. Now, can you tell me, what do you do at Microsoft?
Oren, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I've been working at Microsoft now for over 18 years on a variety of different technologies, whether it was Hyper-V virtualization, software-defined compute, storage, networking. I work across the entire spectrum. These days, I'm really focused on the hybrid cloud and the work that we're doing in Admin Center and more. And I'm really excited to tell you about the huge laundry list of things that we announced today at Ignite. So let's get to it.
Okay, well, Windows Admin Center is absolutely a fantastic way to manage Windows Server and really is the way going forward. Sort of eventually we're going to get rid of all of those Microsoft management consoles and it's going to be Windows Admin Center and PowerShell. But we've, as you said, just a whole lot of stuff added to Windows Admin Center. What can you tell me about the core management tools of Windows Admin Center now?
Wow, you know, we're actually celebrating the 3-year anniversary. It was called Project Honolulu. Admin Center started off with the core management tools, and we started off 3 years ago with just a handful of tools. Now we have so many in the core management tools that we have a scroll bar, and this release has a huge set of new improvements for core management tools, starting with the #1 used tool. I'm sure you know what it is. It's the Hyper-V management tool. And in the Hyper-V management tool, you know, already it could do things that the legacy Hyper-V Manager MMC couldn't do, but we've now taken that a whole new step further. For example, there are so many features that it actually has a new action bar. It has a new menu for a new menuing system in the VMs tool. There's a whole bunch of performance improvements. In terms of migration, we added live migration last year. This year, we've completed it. We now have live storage migration in there as well. We also have all sorts of new capabilities. For example, you can now join a domain for the guest operating system from Admin Center. So for example, if you've installed an OS and you need to go domain join or something like that, or if you get an OS that hasn't been, you can do it all from Admin Center without actually having to go inside the VM and do it. So there's a whole bunch of new stuff that's gone into the Hyper-V tool. Those are just a few. We've improved the file shares tool. We also know that file sharing obviously is a top use for Windows Server. And so guess what? We've actually improved the file shares tool. And of course, we've done a whole bunch of work around containers. We'll be talking more about that in a second. But of course, the containers tool has a bunch of new improvements as well to make it easier to start, stop, actually view things going on in containers and more. And then of course, we did some nice, really cool things, just like, you know, adding some new colorful icons to really give it a whole new look. And of course, our partners have been there since day one of Admin Center. Huge shout out to our friends at Dell EMC, HPE Storage, Data On, Must, Dell EMC Open Manage. There's a whole bunch of new partner updates and integration into Admin Center as well. So for the core management tools, it really is a major release on its own in Windows Admin Center version 2009.
It's really important for people to understand that new functionality is never going to surface itself in the old management tools. And a great example of that with Windows Admin Center is, for example, turning on nested virtualization. You can't do it in old Hyper-V Manager. You can do it in PowerShell, but you can do it really, really easily in Windows Admin Center. And when I'm talking to customers and when I'm talking to people at conferences, I say, look, there's all these new features coming in Windows Server, but you're only going to be able to play with them in a GUI if you're using Windows Admin Center. You won't be able to use them using the old tools. So speaking of
it makes me so happy to hear you say that, Oren. Please keep spreading that message. I've been actually very clear about this starting 3 years ago. We were very clear and said, look, all new GUI interface for Windows Server is happening in Admin Center. And we actually have a number of great examples. The storage migration service, a brand new feature we added in Windows Server, that's only available. The GUI's only in Admin Center. There's nothing inside of the shell or GUI or UI within Windows Server. Same for System Insight. So we keep adding more and more features, and we're putting them all into Windows Admin Center, and that is the plan going forward. And we're about to talk about more of that.
Yeah, no, it'll be absolutely great when we can do absolutely everything in Windows Admin Center. Not there just yet, but one day we will be. Now, let's talk about Azure Stack HCI. One of the concerns I get
Yes.
from a lot of people is, hey, you've got this Azure Stack HCI thing, but does that mean that I have to go into the Azure portal to manage it? Or can I use, the tool I'm really starting to like, Windows Admin Center?
Well, this is a perfect example. When I tell people, really, when they think about their management story, their hybrid platform going forward, there are two tabs I always have open now in the late, the Chromium Edge version. There's two tabs. I always have the Azure portal and I have Admin Center, and they're sitting right next to each other. And the reason why we have them both is because they're complementary, and for exactly the reason you talk about. We know that people are deploying Azure Stack HCI. We actually released the new 20H2 version is coming out later this year. We released a preview a few months ago. People are loving it, installing it. And the whole point of that is it allows you to do some management from Azure Portal. And we're going to be adding first-class resources, and a whole bunch of additional things are coming to Azure to manage Azure Stack HCI. But there are folks that are concerned, like, you know what, if I deploy this in a remote site where the network connection may be a little dodgy, you know what do I do for managing Admin Center if, Azure's just not available? And my answer is always, we got you covered. Again, that's where Admin Center comes in. It's your edge local management. So you can do diagnostics, you can run your VMs, you can configure VMs, you can keep business going, no problem. And then when Azure is available again, guess what? You get your global cloud management, and then you can see all of your Azure stacks running everywhere. So again, we have a complementary story with Azure Stack HCI management locally with Windows Admin Center and globally with the Azure portal.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask you is that obviously you can go and build your own sort of hyperconverged installation using Windows Server. Now, Azure Stack HCI runs VMs, it runs Kubernetes. What makes it different from building my own sort of HCI solution?
That's a great question. The difference is, first of all, when you purchase an Azure Stack HCI validated solution, this is something where Microsoft and our OEM partners, we have worked very closely together to actually architect, the entire system end to end. We've actually chosen the flash, the network adapters, the processors, the motherboards, all of these things, and built this solution so that it's going to work together. Certainly, you could, get your own servers, put them all together, and make it all work. But the thing is, when you buy a solution that has been validated together, it's first of all, what we do together is we the OEM helps. We work together to get the solution built end to end. We then run multiple weeks of testing on this together, actually run this thing into the ground. And then once we actually validate it and we actually sell it to a customer, it means then when you call up the vendor for support, they go, oh, this is an Azure Stack HCI solution. We know what this is. We know what the firmware is. We know how to make sure we're giving you the best support. If this is some random servers that you've thrown together, a lot of times we find someone may say, hey, I'm going to save a few bucks on this network adapter, and it may not have all of the right offloads or right things that we are looking for in an HCI system. And that can result in, performance not being what it should, heaven forbid, reliability not being what it should. If you buy an Azure Stack HCI certified solution, you know that we've spent the time to test and validate this end to end so that when you deploy it, you're ready to go. You don't need to go through, weeks of burn-in and testing to make sure it works, because we've already done that for you. So it's better support. It's an end-to-end validated solution, and it's just the right way to go. I definitely recommend it for customers who are looking for an HCI solution.
Now, we've sort of hit this question a little bit when we were talking about sort of Windows Admin Center and Azure Stack HCI. But one of the bits, or one of the concerns I sort of get from talking to people about Azure Stack HCI is they're like, it's an Azure service. Exactly what does that mean for me? I'm an on-prem administrator. All my VM workloads are running on-prem. I don't interact with Azure all that much. What does it mean that Azure Stack HCI is an Azure service?
Yeah, this to me is actually one of the most exciting things about the new Azure Stack HCI and this whole Azure as a service thing. And you're right, we've gotten a lot of questions about this. So number one, what makes this special is when you deploy an Azure Stack HCI, the first thing you do is you're going to register it with Azure. Okay, and the reason why we do that is for the subscription billing, because this is a different subscription. This isn't like the olden days where you buy a license for Windows Server, you buy it for all of your servers, and go from there. Azure Stack HCI is actually licensed per core, so it's actually predictable licensing, and it's $10 per core. That's it. So if you have 8 cores, guess what? It's $80 a month. If you have 25 cores, it's $250 a month. So it's very predictable. So we have you register it for subscription billing. But now, once you've actually registered it with Azure, guess what? Azure Stack HCI is going to have a first-class Azure Stack resource in the Azure portal. So for companies, for example, that deployed multiple Azure Stacks, you can click on the Azure Stack resource in the Azure portal and actually see a listing of all of your Azure Stack HCIs deployed. And now, because it's an Azure resource, you can do things, you can take advantage of the Azure capabilities. You can apply categorization, you can apply tags, you can do role-based authentication, you can take advantage of the capabilities that we have in Azure. You can easily attach services for monitoring, updating, and so much more. And so this is, that's what's so exciting, is we're changing the paradigm. And really, we want to make sure that as you deploy new Azure Stack HCIs, as you deploy these solutions, guess what? They're part of your cloud. Okay, and this is what customers are looking for. They don't want to live in a world where I have some servers here and I have the cloud. They've been saying, customers have been telling us, give us a hybrid solution, bring these things closer together. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're basically saying is, as you plug in new Stack HCIs, they just participate in your cloud ecosystem. And that's what makes this Azure Stack HCI as a service so awesome.
Now, one of the other things that's sort of been bugging me when I've gone and deployed Windows servers in Azure is I have to go and spin up a VM that hosts my Windows Admin Center instance. And then I have to basically either connect via my browser through a VPN into Azure to manage my VMs, or I have to do a fair amount of mucking around. Is there a better experience coming for Windows Admin Center if I'm using it to manage Windows VMs in Azure?
Yeah, no, and Oren, as usual, we've known each other for quite a while, and you put your finger right on it. People have been using Admin Center now; they love it. We have millions and millions of servers under management. At the last Ignite, I ran into a couple of customers that say we're managing over 25,000 Windows Server instances with Admin Center, and we love it. It's the greatest thing ever. It's our Swiss Army knife, and we love everything that you're doing. And so people are now used to deploying it. They're used to using it on premises, but they also have Windows servers running up in Azure IaaS. And so they're like, well, if I want to manage those, how do I do that? And exactly right. You have to use, a VPN, or have to set up, an Azure network, or have to configure networking. And for some people, it can be a little challenging. For others that, have been doing this for a while, have ExpressRoute, it's old hat. But for some customers, I want this to be a little bit easier. And so one of the top requests we've had is, can you bring Admin Center to Azure? And for us, we've been working on this for a while. We wanted to do this because, number one, it's, to be super clear here, the best place to run Windows Server and SQL Server, it's Azure. And so you're going to see us continue to make Windows Server even better on Azure. And that's why we brought the Windows Admin Center to Azure. And what this means is when you go to a VM now in Azure IaaS, on the left-hand panel where you've got a number of options, we just plugged in a new option, which is Windows Admin Center. It's in preview right now. And basically what you do is you click on this. It installs it as in a VM extension. And so now what I can do is I can click on that. It'll open up Admin Center specifically to manage that Azure IaaS instance running up in Azure. And so you can see, a bunch of the familiar tools you're used to using, like the certificates tool or events tool, a bunch of those different tools that people are used to are all there. Turns out one of the top requested features is actually something that Admin Center helps, which is an inline RDP client. So today, if you have a VM running in Azure IaaS and you want to RDP into the VM, you click on the Connect button. And what that does is it downloads an RDP file so you can run it on your Windows system and run it locally. However, if you don't have a Windows system, if you have a Mac or something else, or you would just rather it be embedded in the web browser without actually downloading something to your machine, well, guess what? Now, if you click on Admin Center and you click on the remote desktop button, it'll actually provide an inline RDP client right there. And so you don't need to bring up any tools. There's the RDP client into the Windows Server.
That
So that's
is,
a brand new feature.
yeah, no, look, that's really great. I mean, I've set up so many VMs sitting on private networks, and the amount of mucking around I need to do to actually go in and use Windows Admin Center on them is not insubstantial. So the fact that Windows Admin Center is basically now a snap-in in the Azure portal is an absolute godsend for me. Anyway, look, thank you very much, Jeff, for joining me to have this quick conversation. If you want more information about Azure IaaS, head over to azure.microsoft.com or docs.microsoft.com, or even MS Learn, which is on docs.microsoft.com. If you're looking for more information about Azure, consider there's an APAC table talk called The Possibilities Are Endless with Azure. I'd love to thank you very much again, Jeff. You've been a wonderful level of support to me writing books and working on Windows Server. So it's absolutely fantastic that you're out there fighting the good fight. And I will talk to everybody later. Thank you.
You can't